Oh, do I have a special one for you guys right now. Buckle up. We're about to get a twofer for this video. We had some Los Angeles gun control kicked right in the gonads, followed by a surprise follow-up swift kick to the nuts in Minnesota. Guys, this one you're going to want to like. Make sure you send this one out. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Match this energy that I'm delivering to you on tap with some amazing engagement, and we will make this thing go as far as the horizon can allow. All right, guys, make sure you do all those things because you know as well as I do, we say it every day, when you do, the gun controller near you, your favorite one, the one you just know you're thinking about right now, steps on a leg in the middle of the night going to the bathroom, you can make that possible when you hit that like, subscribe, and everything engagement related. All right, I'm just kidding, but seriously, do it. They deserve it. All right. Let's jump over my X profile. I've got to show you guys some stuff. This is crucial. This is killing. This is all breaking. All right. At Braden LOA, make sure you jump in there. Check this out. First up, this is incredibly important. This is something that FPC retweeted from my buddy Mark Smith at Four Boxes Diner. This is one of the outcomes of the One Big Beautiful Bill fight, and then we'll get into what I'm going to talk about. NFA on the brink thanks to the lawsuit by these individuals. This is why this is important. American Suppressor Association, NRA, FPC, and the Second Amendment Foundation. This part right here, this is the next evolution. I've been telling you we're winning. We are picking up steam. We're picking momentum. This is the next evolution of that. We learn to fight individually, facts, but to defeat the NFA and the immoral laws it enforces, we are going to have to work together as a team. Guys, that's the cusp on what we're in right now. That's the cutting edge stuff. The powers are unifying against the tyrants, the Saurons, if you will, of the gun control left and government itself. We are going to push this forward by working together. Really important piece. All right, now to the actual breaking stuff. This is from SAF today. In a case, SAF had submitted an amicus brief in. The Ninth Circuit ruled that plaintiffs who had been arrested for carrying guns in Los Angeles pre-Bruin can proceed with their claims against the city and the LAPD, the court explained. So, charges that were delivered before the Bruin decision, and everything's linked, by the way, if you want to read this further, can now proceed. Quote, the district court erred in dismissing the Second Amendment claims brought by Hunn and Hearns. Hunn and Hearns plausibly alleged that when they were arrested, Los Angeles issued CCW licenses only to judges and law enforcement officers, referred to herein as a no-issue policy. It was a no-issue policy. Technically, it was a may issue policy, which basically meant you'll get your gun rights if we decide that you're important enough, which of course is unconstitutional, which is why the Bruin decision came down and tore gun control asunder from coast to coast. All right, let's continue. The court has also rejected the argument by LAPD that they needed to apply for a permit to have standing. Permitting for your rights. This is why it's stupid. Acknowledging it would have been futile in a rare application of the futility doctrine. SAF, in its amicus brief filed alongside CRPA, Second Amendment Law Center, and the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, had argued those exact points, an excerpt from our brief below. I'm going to click on this real quick and read it for you. While Mr. Matthews was barred from receiving a permit, he was also, like the other two appellants, I'm trying to read all this. Hunn and Hearns barred from doing so de facto. Even if he had established residency in California, he still would not have gotten a CCW permit from appellees. Before Bruin, LAPD did not issue a CCW permits to almost anyone, whether residents or not. In fact, then Chief Michelle Moore, had even moved to cancel the few remaining permits still in civilian hands. Before 2022, there were only 4 active CCW permits issued by LAPD in Los Angeles. 4. Well, that's weird. I thought they loved Second Amendment rights and they loved the gun rights. It's just a little few safety procedures. Yeah, no, there was a stifling icing effect. I think they call it a chilling effect, the Supreme Court does. Yeah, that was the point. The entire point was to chill the idea of your Second Amendment rights through an issuance of permits on the subjective nature of the state law enforcement officials. That's what you were dealing with here. But don't worry, it was perfectly fair. Only 4 people had them in the entire city of multiple millions of people. But guys, come on, they wouldn't do anything. Yeah, it turns out they did. But that's the big story here on this one. This is the first kick to the gonads. This is where we're talking about the different shall issue, may issue, no issue issues in Los Angeles. Man, say that 4 times fast. This one is allowed to proceed. Let's continue to the follow-up kick in the nuts. I think I said the nuts. Yeah, I think Minnesota was the nuts and Los Angeles was the gonads. Pretty sure. Let's continue. Enough anatomy. Minnesota Supreme Court greenlights homemade firearms without serial numbers. Wait a minute. That sounds like the dreaded ghost gun. You know, the gun that was invisible until you saw it, and then it was going to get your crime. It was like, boo. You know, the frames and receiver rule that Biden put down saying it was going to stop all the crime in the universe. And then it didn't. And somehow you were still a criminal. All right, let's get into Minnesota. God, man, the sarcasm's a little turned up on this one. I'm here for it. I'm enjoying it. I hope you enjoy the tone. Minnesota Supreme Court greenlights homemade firearms without serial numbers. The Minnesota Supreme Court has ruled that it is legal to possess unserialized firearms so long as they are not required to be serialized by federal law. What? That's weird. They must have had a lot of poltergeist activity in Minnesota. Again, this is Tim Walz, Minnesota. This is not Montana. This is Minnesota. This is like the one state that voted for Mondale. This is like Tim Walz. Ugh. This is a welcome and uncharacteristic reverence for the Second Amendment, considering the justices are all Democratic appointees. The story began in February 22. Here's some backstory, and we will wrap this entire thing up. When a state trooper in Fridley, Minnesota, arrived on a scene at a rollover traffic accident and noticed a firearm magazine in Logan Vagel's vehicle. Oh, that pesky Vagel. The trooper, apparently unaware of the Constitution, determined that Vagel had a handgun in his vehicle that was not permitted to carry. Hey, look, you see that same thing? That same issue right there? Permit to carry, permit to own. You seeing the same issues? The shall issue, the state decides if you have the Second Amendment right, the state decides if you can have a permit, the state decides you can carry a gun, all those things. It's all around state level control. We are going to undermine it. We have relentless additions to our tool belt. Heller, McDonald, Bruin, Cargill, that other one, Loper Enterprises. Let's just keep on stacking them up, baby. They are stacking up like Legos. Oh, let's get past that trooper. The following day, Vega was charged with possession of a firearm without a serial number and carrying a pistol without a permit. Yeah, because remember, guys, when you have a serial number, everything's fine. And when you don't have a serial number, everything is not fine. It really is that silly. Now, forget the idea that criminals are constantly defacing serial numbers and defacing the firearms, and then obliterating the firearms is the technical term. Anyway, let's continue. Seems like there's a little bit of a discrepancy there. After an appeal to the Minnesota Supreme Court, a ruling was issued on Wednesday, August 6th, reversing Eads' decision. Justice Paul Thyssen, appointed by a Democrat governor, Mark Dayton, wrote the majority opinion in which he said this, quote, let me zoom in for you on this one. Again, everything's linked. It always is. I always bring receipts. Minnesota has not established an independent firearm serial number regime, and federal law does not require that Vagel's pistol have a serial number. Federal law does not require that Vagel's pistol have a serial number. We'll come back to that. The question before us is whether Vagel's possession of the firearm section, it doesn't matter. We conclude that section, blah, 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 criminalizes possession of a firearm not identified by a serial number only if federal law requires that the firearm have a serial number. Wait a minute. So the federal law does not require the pistol have a serial number, and then state law says you can't make up a crime that's not federal. That's almost like federal and state level. You can't conflict. The firearm Vagel possessed is not such a firearm. We reverse the Court of Appeals and remand to the District Court, Thyssen wrote. Translation, it's fine. All right. Now, let me tie this all together for us. We've got LAPD saying, you can have 4 permits in the entire city of millions of people. We've got Minnesota saying you can't be allowed to own a gun if it doesn't have a serial number. They both meet opposition in the court system. These are both deep blue cities. You are winning. Keep going. We will not stop. And I guarantee you, the Second Amendment advocates that are getting all these wins and all these experiences and all this leadership ability, we're coming out into the rest of the population too. We're coming for the entire country. We're going to flip it back. At least that's what I'm going to do. Let me hear you off in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, and I will see you guys tonight, probably when I talk about D.C. being occupied by the National Guard. It's a thing, whatever. I'll see you on the next one.